Shakshuka, I hope you're all doing really well. So I didn't feel like wearing makeup today, that's why I'm not wearing any, so deal with it. Today's video is going to be what I eat in a week. I just wanted to quickly pop on and do like a quick intro that I eat vegetarian 5 days a week, and then I'll save like fish or meat meals for the weekend. That's normally how we do things. But yeah, so I just wanted to show you some quick easy dinners that I eat. I was going to do like a breakfast, lunch and dinners, but for breakfast I eat the exact same thing every day. With lunch, because I meal prep for my lunch, it's the exact same thing every day. So I thought that might be kind of boring, so I'm just going to document my dinners for the week. So that's why I'm not including my breakfast and my lunches, but I thought I'd quickly explain that. But yeah, just keep watching if you want to see what I eat in a week, dinners edition.
Okay, so first of all, we're just going to start with this Mexican inspired sweet potato and halloumi salad. So I just start by topping and tailing my sweet potato, just taking the ends off. I just find it a little bit easier to peel it this way. And then of course I go ahead and peel it. I then chop it into bite-sized chunks and pop it into a microwavable bowl. I put this in the microwave for 10 minutes, but I make sure that after every 2 minutes I give the bowl a shake, mix it around with a spoon just to make sure every little piece is evenly cooked. So I do that every 2 minutes for 10 minutes, and they should be piping hot and cooked all the way through. So while that's cooking in the microwave, I'm just going to heat up some coconut oil in a pan. And then I'm just adding a teaspoon of cumin powder and extra hot chili powder. I like to toast these beforehand just so it smells amazing, and secondly it gives a really nice smoky base to it. So I just like to mix that around in the pan evenly just so it toasts really nicely. It's just like an extra step I like to do. And then I add in my drained tin of sweet corn, and I'm just going to give that a really good mix so every little piece of sweet corn is just covered in all that spicy goodness. Then I'm just going to go ahead and chop 4 tomatoes. Now, this salad does taste really good if you put the tomatoes in fresh, but personally I like to burn, or like cook, I should say cook half of the liquid away. So I just add it into my sweet corns to make sure that all the water from the tomatoes can just like cook away with the sweet corn. So I'm just going to let that cook for a few minutes again until the liquid has gone. Now that my sweet potatoes are done, I'm just going to add my little tomato and sweet corn mixture to the bowl. Then giving everything a nice good stir. You can wait for this to cool down properly, but I quite like it warm. So I just try and do everything as quickly as I can so it's as hot as possible. And then I've just cut up my lime and some coriander, which I give a quick rinse before I start chopping as finely as possible. And there we go. So once that's all in, I just need to squeeze in the lime juice, add in some salt and pepper. I do add in a little bit extra pepper than I probably should, but I just freaking love pepper. So I do go in twice with the pepper, which is probably a bit too much, but I love it. And then just giving everything a good old final stir. And as you can see, there's literally so much of this. So I'm just heating up some oil now, getting the halloumi ready by cutting it into some slices. And then, as you can see, I haven't washed the frying pan because I want any sort of leftovers from that cumin and the chili powder to go onto the halloumi slices as well. There's no point wasting any flavour, so I never wash the pan. I just make sure to coat it in all that goodness and keep flipping them through to make sure they're nice golden brown on both sides. Now, just plating it all up. I think about 2 spoons of this is normally plenty for me. And because I make so much of this, I use this a lot as my lunch prep because it normally makes about 4 lunches for me. So it's a really good meal for meal prep. And there we go. That is it. That is the first meal done. I do have this a lot, so this is definitely one of my favourites. Okay, so jumping into the second one, I'm just going to start by pouring some boiling water from the kettle into one of my pots. This is getting ready for a nest of noodles. I normally only add 1 nest just because I'm not a huge fan of noodles. I do prefer more veggies than noodles in my stir fry. And then I'm just going to start by prepping my veggies. So I start by slicing an onion first. And also you can see that I put all my scraps into a bowl. I just find it easier than having to go back and forth to the bin. So all my scraps just go into a bowl and I empty it once I'm done cooking. Then I'm just going to be dicing up a chili nice and finely, just to make sure there's no big chunks to bite into. And then obviously heat some oil in a wok, add in my chili and my onion, and I'm just going to let that saute while I prep the other veggies. So again, topping and tailing my parsnip and my carrot, and then I need to peel both of them as well. So with the carrot, I like to cut it into strips. I don't know if you'd call them batons, I think, but I just like to cut them into long chunky strips just so there's lots of different textures going on. And with the parsnip, I usually cut it at an angle, so I will still try and slice it, but at an angle so the pieces are just slightly longer, if that makes sense. And then obviously once I get towards the top, I cut it in half just so the pieces aren't too big. And then in that goes with the onion and chili too. Give everything a nice stir and let that saute again. Next we have the shiitake mushrooms. I just give them a quick rinse. And then I do the same for them. I just start slicing them up into little fine slices. With the stalks, I find them quite woody, so I will try and cut them into halves or like thirds, just so it's not really intense flavour there. But just making my way through all of them. And then in they go too, to mix in with all the other veggies. So here I'm just chopping up some garlic. I do go over this a few times just to make sure the garlic is really nice and fine. So again, I'm not getting any big chunks to bite into. And in that goes into the wok too. So final veggie to go in is my Brussels sprouts. I just like to trim the ends off of these and quarter them. You can properly shred these. I just personally love Brussels sprouts, so I like to keep really big chunks of it. So yeah, honestly, this is my favourite veggie in the stir fry. And that is all the veggies that we're going to be using today. So I'm just going to give them all a really big stir and let them cook. Okay, so next I'm adding obviously the obligatory salt and some pepper. And in go the noodles that I cooked from earlier. I do try and separate these as I'm putting them in, just so they're a little bit easier to mix around. Then I'm going in with a few tablespoons of rice wine vinegar. And also Chinese 5-spice. I do add quite a bit of this because it's definitely one of my favourite seasonings. And then again, just giving everything a nice big mix. And here I just have my very helpful assistant squeezing some lime for me. Sometimes there's some limes that are just way too tough for me to squeeze, so I always have to ask Callum to do them. So while he's squeezing in the whole juice of a lime, I'm patiently waiting by just to start getting in there and start mixing everything around, giving it one final mix. And there we go. That is my winter root veg stir fry, and I'm not quite sure what to call this, but it's just packed full of veggies. Okay, so jumping into the next one, I start by heating some oil in a frying pan, and then I make a start on 2 onions. I slice them up really nice and finely. And then in the oil, I add a teaspoonful of cumin seeds. I wait until these start popping and like sizzling around, and that's when I'll add the onion slices to the pan too. Next, I'm starting on my pepper. So this I'm going to try and slice really finely as well. I made a bit of a mess of this because I got the seeds everywhere, so don't be like me and cut it properly. And then make sure you slice it up into nice fine little lines. And in that goes into the frying pan as well. So I just want to saute both the onion and the peppers until they're kind of halfway point, so they're not quite soft and they've got a little bit of crunch. Next, I'm just chopping up 2 or 3 cloves of garlic. And this normally depends on my mood. Sometimes I'm like 2 cloves, sometimes I'll go with 3 or 4. It just depends what mood I'm in. Plus, I'm pretty sure garlic is what brings my migraines on, so I try not to have too much of it. I try to moderate it. So this time I went for 3. It's a good middle ground. Then going in with a chili, same concept with this, just chopping it up as fine as possible and then adding that into the pan as well, giving everything a really big stir. Then I go in with a tin of chopped tomatoes, mix everything around, add in a teaspoon of cumin powder, also a good sprinkle of smoked paprika, about half a teaspoon of cinnamon. Again, this depends on my mood how much I actually put in, but normally half a teaspoon is a good amount for me. And again, just giving everything a really big stir and adding in the salt and pepper too now. So while that's all cooking away, I'm going to put my garlic bread into the oven too, just so it cooks at the same time as my shakshuka is ready. So once it's all nice and bubbly, as you can see, I make 4 little wells to crack my eggs into. And then I just pop that into the grill for a few minutes. I do turn the frying pan a few times just so 2 of the eggs can be harder than the other ones. I like my eggs more runny, Callum likes his a little bit harder, so I just kind of adjust that as I'm going along. And here I'm just chopping up some coriander ready for garnish to go on top. And there we go, easy peasy dinner. This is one of our go-tos when we don't know what we want to eat, and it's just store-bought like essentials. These are all in our store cupboard, so it's really easy to make. Moving on to another big favorite of mine is this Mexican inspired soup. So I start by heating some oil in a pan and adding 1.5 chopped red onions. The other half of the red onion I just keep on the side because I will use that as garnish later on. So once the 1.5 chopped red onion is in the pan, I then chop up some chili finely too and add that to the pan as well. Then I go in with 3 to 4 cloves of garlic, chop them up real fine, and they're going to go into the pan too. So while that's all sauteing away, I am just going to chop up some tomatoes. I've used about 4 salad tomatoes. I could just cut the top off, I don't know, it's a habit. But I just chop them up into little chunks, and then all of that is going to go into the pan to cook for about 8 to 10 minutes. And after that time, this is the kind of texture you have. Then I add in my vegetable stock, give everything another big stir. Add in my drained and rinsed can of black beans. And also half a carton of passata. I do use the other half of this in another recipe, so I just keep that in the fridge until then. Then I'm just going in with a teaspoon of ground cumin. Also salt and pepper, you know, the basics. And a teaspoon of oregano. And just a sprinkling of smoked paprika, giving everything a really big stir, and I'm going to get started on my garnish. So I'm going to start by chopping up some coriander, really nice and fine. I do put half of the coriander bunch into the soup just so I can cook a little bit more beforehand, and the other half I reserve to use as garnish later on. So I'm just prepping the red onion for my garnish now, slicing it and then dicing it as finely as possible, just so there's no big chunks. This just adds a really nice crunch on top of the soup. Then I got my trusty helper again, helping me squeeze lime juice. I swear there was something wrong with this batch of limes. I could not squeeze them. But there we go, giving everything a final stir. It's looking so good. And then I'm going to start plating it up. So I start with a few teaspoons of sour cream, just a few dollops here and there, and then I do a sprinkling of the chopped red onion and also a sprinkling of the chopped coriander as well. I think this looks so beautiful because there's so many different colors and I just love this. It's just a bowl of happiness. This is definitely one of my favorite dinners to go to in the winter time. Oh, look at it. Doesn't it look magical? I love it so much. Right, jumping into my next one, just going to heat up 2 small knobs of butter and then add in chopped garlic and 2 chopped onions. I'm just going to saute these until they're nice and soft. Look at the absolute mess I made. I didn't realize that at the time. But yeah, I'm just going to cook these on a medium heat until the onions have gone soft. So I'm just checking with my spoon to make sure I can break them in half. And then it's time to add the risotto rice. And I'm just going to toast this for a few minutes with the onion, garlic and the butter. And then it is time for the veggie stock. So basically with risotto, you just add a little bit of veggie stock, stir it all in, wait until the stock has completely been absorbed by the rice, and then you add a little bit more, wait for it to be absorbed again, and then add a little bit more. You basically just keep repeating that step until you're all out of stock. I think I used about 2 jugs of stock. I will try and put the exact measurement in the description box, but if not, I do a lot. I do a lot of recipes on my Instagram. So I'm just going in with some salt and pepper now. Love me some pepper, and then just stirring all of that in. Then I'm going in with the passata that I had left over from my soup the night before, and that's just about half a carton of passata. And honestly, you could just leave it like this, because I feel like it's just already so comfy. Just tomato risotto on its own, it's just, oof, hits the spot. But you can take a step further, add in some torn mozzarella. I just hand tore this myself. And you do want to mix this enough that you get some stringy bits, but don't over mix it that you lose some of those big chunks as well. So I just let it mix around until there's a few stringy bits and also some big chunks as well. And then I'm also going to obviously insert a sexy slow-mo of those cheese strings. Look at those pulls, baby! Oh, it looks so good. I get so excited over this. It just feels like such a kiddie meal, but like a grown-up version of a kiddie meal. I absolutely love it. Here we have taco night. So this is normally when I can't be bothered to cook everything from scratch. I always go for tacos. So here I've just got my pico de gallo, which is chopped onions, chopped tomatoes, chopped garlic, chopped chili, chopped coriander, lime juice, salt and pepper, and then I give everything a big stir and I just let it sit on the side for all that flavor to mix together while I get everything else ready. So then first I start with the turkey mince. I just break it up in the pan to get it into smaller pieces just so it's a little bit easier to brown. And then once it's nice and brown like that, I add in the seasoning. I normally use the Old El Paso, I think it's the paprika and garlic one. That's my favorite, but they didn't have any, so I just went for the regular Tesco brand one. This one was actually really nice and spicy too, so I quite like that. So I'm just adding in the water just so it's a little bit easier to mix around. Give everything a good old stir until it's all mixed up and looking gorgeous, like that. I get so excited about tacos. It's like the easiest thing in the world. Well, the way I make them anyway, it's super easy. And there we go. So just added some soft taco shells, got my pico de gallo, some shredded lettuce, sour cream, and some grated cheese. Easy peasy. You know I had to save the best till last. So this camembert garlic and rosemary wreath is from Asda, and honestly it was my favorite dinner this week. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Well, that is it guys, that's the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Give me a comment of your favorite meal down below and don't forget to give me a big thumbs up too. I will see you in the next one. Bye!